This is the story of a woman named Clara and a man who became a billionaire named Michael. One was sitting in the rain with her crying child and nothing left. The other had everything money could buy. But one rainy evening in Lagos, their paths crossed again after 4 long years of separation. And what happened next will make you question everything you thought you knew about second chances. It was a cold evening. The rain was pouring down without mercy. Cars splashed water as they rushed past on the busy Lagos street. Clara sat on the wet pavement, her back pressed against a closed shop. Her 5-year-old daughter Destiny was crying beside her. The little girl's pink dress was soaked through, her hair stuck to her face in wet strands. Clara pulled her close, trying to shield her with her thin wrapper. But it was no use. They were both drenched to the bone. Clara looked down at Destiny's tear-stained face. "Mommy, I'm cold," Destiny cried, her voice breaking. "I want to go home. I want my toys. I want my bed." Clara felt tears mixing with the rain on her own cheeks. "I know, my baby. I know," she whispered, her voice shaking. But there was no home anymore. No toys, no bed, nothing. Just 2 weeks ago, they still had an apartment. Small, yes, but it was theirs. Now they had nothing but the clothes on their backs. Clara's phone screen was cracked and the battery was dead. She knew there were dozens of missed calls from people demanding their money back. Money she didn't have, money she would never have again. How did it come to this? Clara closed her eyes against the rain and let the memories flood back. 4 years ago, Clara lived in a comfortable 2-bedroom flat with her husband Michael. They were both working. Michael was an accountant at a medium-sized company in Victoria Island. Clara worked as a sales assistant at an upscale fashion boutique. Together, they earned enough to live well, not wealthy, but stable, content, or at least they should have been. But Clara had a problem, a serious problem that she refused to admit. She was addicted to shopping. Every weekend, without fail, she would go to the mall. New dresses with designer labels, expensive shoes that hurt her feet, handbags she didn't need, makeup that filled 3 drawers. She couldn't stop herself. When she saw something beautiful in a shop window, something inside her screamed that she had to have it. Right now, no matter the cost. Michael would come home exhausted from work to find shopping bags piled in every corner. "Clara again?" he would ask, his voice tired and disappointed. "But this was on sale," she would snap back. "I actually saved money by buying it now. You don't understand fashion." "That's not how saving works," Michael would reply, trying to stay calm. "We need to put money aside for the future, for emergencies. We can't spend everything we earn on things we don't need." "You're just being cheap and boring," Clara would shoot back, her eyes flashing with anger. "Other women dress well and look beautiful. Why can't I? Do you want me to look like a poor woman? Is that what you want?" They had this same fight every week, then every few days, then almost daily. But Clara never listened. She always found a reason, an excuse, a justification for buying more things. Then Destiny was born. Clara was overjoyed to have a beautiful baby girl, but instead of the baby making her more responsible, Clara's spending spiraled completely out of control. She bought expensive designer baby clothes from boutiques that Destiny would outgrow in weeks. She purchased fancy imported diapers that cost 3 times more than local ones. She filled the apartment with expensive toys that Destiny was too young to even play with. Their small flat was drowning in unnecessary things. Michael tried desperately to make her see reason. "Clara, please. Listen to me. We're going into serious debt. The baby doesn't need all these expensive things. She needs love, food, and care, not designer clothes she'll wear once." "My daughter will not look poor," Clara said coldly, her jaw set with stubborn pride. "I don't care what you say. I won't have people looking at my child and thinking we can't afford nice things." The arguments escalated. They became louder, more bitter, more painful. Michael would show her their bank statements with shaking hands. "Look at this, Clara. Please, just look. We're spending 40% more than we earn every single month. We're borrowing money from friends, from family, from your colleagues. This is destroying us. This has to stop now." But Clara wouldn't look. She would turn away, her arms crossed. "Then work harder. Get promoted, make more money, that's what men are supposed to do, isn't it? Clara started borrowing money from everyone around her. Her colleagues at the boutique, small amounts at first. Just 5,000 until payday, she would say with her charming smile. But payday would come and go, and instead of paying back, she would borrow more from someone else. She borrowed from neighbors in their building, from old school friends, from distant relatives, from anyone who would lend to her. When Destiny turned 1 year old, she learned something that would shape her entire personality. She learned that crying gets you things. Every time Destiny had a tantrum in a store, Clara would immediately buy her a toy to make her stop. Every time the child whimpered, Clara would produce candy or a new doll or a stuffed animal. Destiny quickly understood the system. Cry equals reward. She became a master manipulator before she could even speak in full sentences. The final explosion happened when Destiny was 18 months old. Michael came home from work one evening to find Clara surrounded by even more shopping bags than usual. But this time was different. This time, Michael had received a call from their bank. Their account was not just empty, it was overdrawn by a substantial amount. There was also a notice that their rent was 3 months overdue. "Clara," Michael said, his voice barely above a whisper, his hands trembling with emotion, "we're 3 months behind on rent. 3 months. The landlord is threatening to evict us. We'll be on the street." Clara didn't even look up from the new makeup palette she was admiring. "So pay it," she said dismissively. "With what money?" Michael exploded, his voice finally breaking. "You've spent everything. We have nothing left, nothing. Do you understand what I'm saying? We are about to lose our home." "Then work harder," Clara screamed back, standing up to face him. "Get a better job. Make more money. What kind of man can't provide for his family?" "I am working as hard as I possibly can." Michael's voice cracked with pain and frustration. "But you're spending money faster than any human being could possibly earn it. This has to stop. Please, Clara, I'm begging you, for our family, for Destiny's future, please stop." Clara's eyes turned cold, ice cold. "You know what? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of you complaining about money every single day. I'm tired of feeling guilty for wanting nice things. I'm tired of you making me feel like I'm doing something wrong when I'm just trying to live well." Michael stared at her in disbelief. "Clara, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm done," Clara announced, lifting her chin with pride. "If you can't afford us, then we'll leave. I don't need a man who can't provide for his wife and child properly." Michael felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. "Clara, please, don't do this. Let's work together. Let's fix this. I love you. I love Destiny. We can solve this if we work together." But Clara had already made up her mind. That same night, she packed bags for herself and Destiny. Her mother lived in a modest flat across town, and Clara moved in with her. They never officially divorced. Clara said she didn't have money for lawyers, which was ironic, but she made it crystal clear she wanted nothing more to do with Michael. She blocked his phone number. She refused to let him see Destiny. She told everyone who would listen that he had abandoned them, that he was a failure as a husband and provider. Michael tried desperately to reach out. He came to her mother's house multiple times. Clara's mother, a tired woman who had warned Clara about her spending for years, would answer the door with sad eyes. "She doesn't want to see you," she would say quietly. "I'm sorry." Michael would leave money for Destiny, carefully saved money from his modest salary. Clara would return it unopened, sending it back with a note that said, "We don't need your charity." For the first year after the separation, Clara managed to keep her head above water. She still worked at the fashion boutique. She lived with her mother rent-free, but her spending habits didn't change even slightly. If anything, they got worse. Now she felt she had to prove something, prove that she didn't need Michael, that she could live well on her own. She bought even more clothes, more shoes, more makeup. And Destiny, now learning to talk in full sentences, had learned to cry for toys every single day. And Clara would buy them every single time. Her colleagues at work started avoiding her. She owed too many people too much money. The debts kept piling up like a mountain that would eventually bury her. Her mother started complaining loudly and frequently. "Clara, you need to control yourself. You're destroying your life, and you're raising that child to be spoiled rotten." Don't tell me how to raise my daughter, Clara would snap back with venom in her voice. When Destiny turned 3, Clara's mother had finally reached her limit. Pay rent starting next month or leave, she said firmly, her patience completely exhausted. I can't support this lifestyle anymore. I won't support it. Clara was furious. She felt betrayed by her own mother. She moved out within a week and rented a small apartment in a less desirable area. But within 6 months, she was behind on rent. She borrowed more money from new neighbors who didn't know her history. She made promises she had no intention of keeping. Her credit cards were maxed out to their limits. Her phone rang constantly with people demanding payment, people she had been avoiding for months. Then she lost her job. The boutique was downsizing due to economic troubles, and Clara was let go. She tried desperately to find new work, but her reputation had spread throughout the industry. No one wanted to hire someone who owed money to half the people in Lagos's fashion community. The eviction notice came on a rainy Tuesday morning. Clara had 30 days to vacate the premises. She spent those 30 days in a panic, calling everyone she knew, begging for help, but the people she had borrowed from were tired of her excuses and empty promises. Her mother refused to take her back. I told you this would happen, her mother said coldly over the phone. You made your choices. Now you have to live with them. 30 days later, Clara and Destiny stood on the street with 2 small bags containing everything they still owned. They spent the first night in a bus shelter in the rain. Destiny cried all night, not understanding why they couldn't go home, why there was no bed, why everything was cold and wet and wrong. Clara tried homeless shelters, but they were all full. She tried reaching out to old friends, but doors were literally slammed in her face. For 2 terrible weeks, they moved from place to place like ghosts. Sometimes they slept in abandoned buildings, sometimes in alleys behind shops, sometimes in parks. Destiny cried constantly. The little girl who had been spoiled with toys and treats and constant attention was now hungry, cold, and confused. One night, huddled in a doorway while rain poured down, Clara held her crying daughter and finally understood. She had destroyed everything: her marriage, her family, her daughter's childhood, her entire life. And for what? For clothes that were now dirty rags? For makeup that had run out or been lost? For toys that Destiny had left behind when they were evicted? She thought about Michael constantly during those dark nights. Where was he now? Was he okay? Did he ever think about them? She had pushed him away so cruelly, so viciously. She had blamed him for everything when the truth was obvious. It was all her fault. Every bit of it. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Destiny whimpered now, pulling Clara back to the present moment. The rain was still falling steadily. "I know, my baby," Clara said softly, her voice breaking. "Mommy will find something soon." "I promise." But Clara didn't know how she would keep that promise. She had no money left, not even enough for a single meal. Her last few naira had bought them some bread that morning. Now it was evening, and Destiny hadn't eaten since breakfast. The rain was getting heavier. Clara looked around desperately, frantically. Where could they go? The shops were all closing their shutters. The streets were emptying as people rushed home to warm houses and hot meals. Soon they would be alone in the dark, with nowhere to hide from the rain and cold. Destiny's cries got louder and more desperate. "I want to go home. I want my toys. I want my bed. I want food." "Shh, baby girl, please," Clara begged, tears streaming down her own face. "Mommy's trying her best." "I hate you," Destiny screamed with all the fury a 5-year-old could muster. "You're a bad mommy. The worst mommy in the whole world." Those words pierced Clara's heart like a knife. She pulled Destiny close, despite the child struggling, and cried with her. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, my baby. I ruined everything. I destroyed our lives. This is all my fault. I'm so sorry." They sat there on the wet, cold pavement, 2 broken souls crying in the rain. People walked past without looking. Some stepped over them like they were garbage. Cars drove by, splashing more dirty water on them. No one stopped. No one cared. They were invisible. Then suddenly, through the rain and tears, Clara heard the sound of a car slowing down. She didn't look up. She was too tired, too defeated, too broken. The car stopped directly in front of them. Clara heard a door open. She heard footsteps splashing through puddles. Then she heard a voice that made her entire world stop spinning. "Clara?" She looked up slowly, water streaming down her face. Standing there in the rain, wearing an expensive tailored suit and holding a large black umbrella, was a man. For a moment, she didn't recognize him. He looked so different. Taller somehow, more confident, more successful. His face had matured but was still handsome, even more handsome than she remembered. Then their eyes met, and recognition hit her like a physical blow. "Michael," she whispered in complete shock. He stared at her, his face showing a mixture of shock, pain, and something else she couldn't identify. "Clara, what? How did this?" He couldn't finish his sentences. He looked at Destiny, who had stopped crying and was now staring at the stranger with wide, frightened eyes. "Destiny," Michael said softly, his voice cracking with emotion. "Is that my Destiny?" The little girl pressed herself against her mother, scared of this unknown man. She had absolutely no memory of her father. Clara had made sure of that by cutting him completely out of their lives. Michael's eyes filled with tears that he tried to blink away. He looked at Clara again, really taking in her appearance, her wet, torn clothes, her thin face, the way she was shaking uncontrollably from cold. "What happened to you? Where have you been? How long have you been living like this?" Clara couldn't speak. Shame crashed over her in waves. She looked down at the wet ground, unable to meet his eyes. "Please," Michael said, his voice urgent as he knelt down in the rain beside them. "Talk to me. Tell me what happened." We've been living on the street," Clara finally whispered, so quietly he had to lean in to hear. "For 2 weeks now." Michael closed his eyes tightly. When he opened them, they were wet with tears. 2 weeks. 2 weeks out here. His voice was filled with pain. "We have nowhere else to go," Clara admitted, her voice empty of all pride now. Michael stood up quickly, decisively. "Come with me, both of you, right now." "Michael, no," Clara said, shaking her head. "You don't have to do this. We're not your problem anymore. I made sure of that." "I said come with me." Michael's voice was firm, but still gentle. "Please, Clara. Don't argue. Just come." He reached down and carefully lifted Destiny into his strong arms. The little girl was too tired and cold to protest much. Michael held his umbrella over her small body, protecting her from the rain. Then he looked at Clara with an expression that said he wasn't taking no for an answer. "Can you walk?" Clara nodded slowly. She stood up on shaking legs, her body weak from hunger and exhaustion. Michael led them toward his car. But it wasn't just any car. It was a gleaming black Mercedes-Benz that looked brand new. Clara stared at it in confusion and disbelief. Michael opened the back door gently. He placed Destiny carefully on the leather seat and fastened her seatbelt with practiced movements. Then he helped Clara into the car beside their daughter. He got into the front passenger seat beside his driver, a middle-aged man who looked at the bedraggled woman and child in his rearview mirror with surprise but said nothing. "Take us home," Michael said quietly. The car was warm and dry. Destiny stopped shivering almost immediately. Clara sat in stunned silence, watching the lights of Lagos pass by through the tinted window. She didn't understand what was happening. Michael looked so different from the man she had left 4 years ago. The car was expensive, very expensive. His suit probably cost more than she used to make in 3 months. His watch gleamed on his wrist. Everything about him screamed wealth and success. Where was the struggling accountant she had abandoned? The man she had said couldn't afford them. What had happened in the 4 years since she'd last seen him? They drove for about 40 minutes through increasingly upscale neighborhoods. The car finally turned onto a quiet street lined with massive houses behind high walls. Then they stopped in front of enormous iron gates with intricate designs. The gates opened automatically as they approached. They drove into a compound that looked like something from a movie or magazine. Clara's mouth fell open in shock. In front of her stood a mansion, a real, actual mansion, 3 stories high with white pillars, beautiful manicured gardens with lights illuminating flowers and fountains. It looked like a palace where royalty would live. "Michael," she whispered in disbelief. "Whose house is this?" "Mine," he said simply, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. The driver parked near the front entrance. Michael got out and opened Clara's door carefully. He reached in and picked up Destiny, who had fallen asleep from exhaustion. "Follow me," he said gently to Clara. Clara stepped out of the car like she was moving through a dream. This couldn't be real. Michael was supposed to be poor like her. He was supposed to be struggling just like she was. But this was wealth beyond anything she had ever imagined or fantasized about. They walked toward the massive front door. Before Michael could open it, the door swung open from inside. A young woman stood in the doorway. She was beautiful, slim and elegant in a simple but clearly expensive dress. Her hair was styled perfectly, her makeup was subtle and tasteful. She looked modern and sophisticated, but not overdone. Her face showed surprise and confusion when she saw Clara and the sleeping child. "Michael," the woman said with concern in her voice, "who are they? What's happening?" Michael's face was serious as he answered, "Sarah, this is Clara, my wife, and this is Destiny, my daughter." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. She looked from Michael to Clara, then at the sleeping child in Michael's arms. For a long moment that felt like an eternity, no one spoke or moved. Finally, Sarah stepped back from the doorway. "Come in," she said softly, though her voice was tight with emotion. They entered the house. Clara couldn't believe what she was seeing. The entrance hall alone was bigger than her entire former apartment. The living room was enormous, with beautiful furniture that looked both expensive and comfortable. Original artwork hung on the walls. Everything was clean, elegant, and tasteful, but not flashy or ostentatious. It was the home of someone who had money, but also had class and good taste. Michael carried Destiny to a large cream-colored couch and laid her down gently, carefully. He covered her with a soft throw blanket that had been draped over the armrest. Then he turned to Sarah, who was watching everything with an unreadable expression. "Can you please prepare the guest room in the east wing?" he asked quietly. "They need to rest properly, and can you ask Martha to prepare some food, something light but warm and nutritious?" Sarah nodded slowly. She looked at Clara with an expression that wasn't angry or cold, just observing, studying. Then she turned and left to carry out Michael's requests. Clara stood in the middle of the opulent room, dripping water onto the expensive floor. She felt like she might faint at any moment. "Clara, please sit down," Michael said, gesturing to a chair. She sat carefully on the edge of the chair, afraid to touch anything or make anything dirty. She looked at Michael, really looked at him for the first time. He was no longer the tired, stressed man who used to come home exhausted from work. He stood tall and confident. He looked successful and powerful. He looked like a completely different person. "Michael," she said, her voice shaking badly. "What happened to you? How did you get all this?" Michael sat down across from her. He leaned forward with his hands clasped together. "After you left me," he began slowly, choosing his words carefully, "I was completely broken. For weeks, maybe months, I couldn't function properly. I lost weight. I couldn't sleep more than an hour or two a night. I tried so many times to see Destiny, but you blocked me at every turn. Your mother wouldn't let me anywhere near you. I felt like I had lost everything that mattered in my entire life." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She looked down at her trembling hands in her lap. "Then one day," Michael continued, his voice stronger now, "a friend of mine sat me down and gave me some hard advice. He said, 'Michael, you can't control what other people do to you, but you can always control what you do in response. Take all this pain you're feeling and turn it into something productive. Use it as fuel.' So that's exactly what I did." He paused, remembering those difficult days. "I started studying obsessively. Every night after work, no matter how tired I was, I took online courses in financial management, investment strategies, and business development. I read hundreds of books. I saved every single kobo I could. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped buying anything that wasn't absolutely necessary for survival. Within 1 year, I had saved enough money to start a small business of my own." Clara looked up at him with wide eyes. "What kind of business?" "Import and export," Michael explained. "I started very small, just me with a laptop, working from a tiny room I rented. But I worked harder than I've ever worked in my entire life. I worked smart, not just hard. I learned from every single mistake. And slowly, very slowly at first, the business began to grow. Within 2 years, I had 10 employees working for me. By the third year, I had 50 people on my payroll. Now I have over 200 employees working across 3 different companies in 4 countries. Clara couldn't speak. She could only stare at him in complete shock and disbelief. "And Sarah?" Michael said, seeing the question in Clara's eyes before she could ask it. "I met her during the 2nd year of building my business. She was working as a senior accountant for one of my main suppliers. She was brilliant at her job. Absolutely brilliant. We started talking about business strategies. She helped me organize my finances more efficiently. She helped me see opportunities and avoid pitfalls that I would have missed on my own. We became business partners first, then friends, then more than friends." Clara felt something twist painfully in her chest. Was it jealousy? Regret? She wasn't even sure anymore. "She knew about you from the very beginning," Michael added quickly, firmly. "I told her everything, about our marriage, about destiny, about how and why you left me. I never lied to her about my past, never hid anything. And she helped me heal from all that pain. She stood by my side when I had absolutely nothing. She believed in me and my vision when I didn't even believe in myself." Just then, Sarah returned to the living room. "The room is ready," she announced quietly, "and Martha is preparing food now." "It should be ready in about 15 minutes. Michael stood up. "Thank you so much, Sarah. Can you please help Clara to the room? I need to check on something quickly." Sarah nodded. She looked at Clara and gave a small, tight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Come with me. Let me show you where you can rest and clean up." Clara stood up slowly, painfully. Her clothes were still soaking wet and filthy. She felt deeply ashamed standing next to this elegant, put-together woman. She followed Sarah up a grand, curved staircase with polished wooden banisters and down a long hallway with paintings on the walls. Sarah opened a door to reveal a beautiful bedroom with a large bed covered in white sheets. There was a private bathroom attached. Everything was perfect and clean. "You can shower and rest here," Sarah said in a neutral voice. "I'll bring you some clothes to wear. We look about the same size." "Why are you being kind to me?" Clara asked suddenly, the question bursting out before she could stop it. Sarah turned to look at her directly. "Because Michael asked me to help you. And because—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I know what it's like to struggle in life. Maybe not exactly like you're struggling right now, but I know what it's like to have nothing and no one." "He loves you," Clara said quietly. It wasn't a question. Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Yes," she finally admitted. "He does love me, but he loved me first," Clara whispered. "Yes," Sarah said again, her voice steady. "He did love you first. And honestly, I think part of him still does. That's exactly why we're standing here right now. That's why he stopped his car in the rain when he saw you." She walked toward the door, then turned back. "Get some rest, Clara. We'll talk more in the morning when everyone's had time to process all of this." After Sarah left and closed the door, Clara stood alone in the beautiful room for several minutes. She walked into the bathroom slowly. There was a large bathtub, a walk-in shower with multiple shower heads, clean fluffy towels, expensive soaps and lotions. She hadn't seen a proper bathroom in 2 weeks. She started crying again, but this time the tears were different. These weren't tears of despair, they were tears of shame, deep regret, and a tiny, fragile spark of hope. She took a long, hot shower, scrubbing away 2 weeks of dirt, sweat, and street grime. When she finally emerged, there were clothes laid out neatly on the bed. A soft, comfortable dress, clean underwear. Everything fit perfectly. There was also a tray of food, hot soup that smelled like heaven, rice, grilled chicken, fresh bread, water, and juice. Clara ate slowly, savoring every single bite. Each mouthful reminded her of everything she had lost, everything she had thrown away so carelessly. She had once had a husband who loved her deeply, a stable, comfortable home, a secure future. And she had destroyed it all, demolished it completely, because she couldn't control her spending, because she thought money and material things were more important than family and love. She finished eating and lay down on the incredibly soft bed. Within minutes, she fell into the deepest sleep she'd had in weeks. When Clara woke up the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the large windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then everything came rushing back like a flood. Michael, the mansion, Sarah, everything. She sat up quickly and looked around frantically. Destiny was sleeping peacefully beside her in the big bed, clean and wearing a fresh nightgown. Clara's eyes filled with tears again. Someone had bathed and fed her daughter while she slept. There was a gentle knock on the door. "Come in," Clara called out, her voice hoarse. Sarah entered, carrying a breakfast tray. "Good morning," she said formally. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in a very long time," Clara admitted honestly. "Thank you. Thank you for everything, for the clothes, for taking care of Destiny while I was sleeping." Sarah set the tray down on the bedside table. "You're welcome." She sat carefully on the edge of the bed, maintaining some distance. "Clara, we need to talk seriously about everything." Clara nodded, her heart beginning to race. "I know." "Michael is downstairs waiting," Sarah said. "He wants to speak with both of us, together. He thinks that's the best way to handle this situation." Clara's heart started pounding even harder. "Okay." They went downstairs after Clara quickly ate some breakfast. Destiny was still sleeping soundly, so Clara left her in the room with the door open so she could hear if her daughter woke up. In the living room, Michael was sitting in an armchair looking serious and thoughtful. He gestured for both women to sit down. "I didn't sleep much last night," Michael began without preamble. "I spent the entire night thinking about everything. About the past 4 years, about what happened between us, Clara, about what should happen now going forward." He looked directly at Clara. "Clara, I need to understand something important. I need to know exactly what happened. How did you end up living on the street with our daughter?" Clara took a deep, shaky breath. Then she told him everything, every shameful detail. About losing her job because of her terrible reputation, about all the debts she had accumulated, about the eviction, about how her out-of-control spending had destroyed everything in her life, about how she had taught Destiny to manipulate people by crying, about how she had blamed everyone except herself for her problems. As she spoke, tears streamed down her face continuously. "I was wrong," she said, when she finally finished her confession. "About absolutely everything. You tried so hard to tell me. You tried desperately to help me see what I was doing. But I was too proud, too stubborn, too foolish to listen. I thought money and clothes and material things would make me happy. But all they did was destroy my entire family." She looked directly at Michael, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "You were right about all of it. Everything you said was true, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I did to you, to us." Michael's eyes were wet with unshed tears. He looked at Sarah, then back at Clara. "I'm not going to lie and pretend the past 4 years were easy for me. They weren't easy at all. I was angry for a very long time, hurt deeply. I felt abandoned and rejected and worthless. But I also learned a tremendous amount during that time, about myself, about what really matters in life, about how to build something real and lasting." He stood up and walked slowly to the large window overlooking the gardens. "Sarah helped me become the man I am today. She taught me how to manage money properly and wisely, how to invest strategically, how to build a real, sustainable business. She stood by my side faithfully when I had absolutely nothing to offer her. She deserves everything I can possibly give her." Sarah looked down at her hands, clearly emotional but trying to stay composed. "But," Michael continued, turning back to face both women, "you are still legally my wife, Clara. We never divorced, that's a fact, and Destiny is my daughter, my own blood. I cannot and will not turn my back on either of you. I cannot leave you on the street to suffer. I cannot do that and still be the man I want to be." He walked back and sat down, looking at both women seriously. "So here's what I've decided after thinking about this all night. And this decision is final and not up for negotiation or debate." Both women looked at him with wide eyes, holding their breath. "This house has 2 wings, Michael explained carefully. East Wing and West Wing. They're both very large and self-contained. Both have their own living spaces, kitchens, bedrooms, everything needed for comfortable living. Clara, you and Destiny will live in the East Wing. Sarah, you and I will continue living in the West Wing. We will share the common areas like this main living room and the formal dining room when necessary or appropriate. But each wing will be completely private otherwise." Clara gasped audibly. Sarah's face showed shock as well. "Michael," Sarah began, but he held up his hand gently. "Please, let me finish explaining," he said. "Clara, I'm giving you a real chance here. A genuine second chance to start your life over. A chance to learn and grow. A chance to show your daughter a completely different way to live. But this opportunity comes with strict conditions that you must follow. You will not spend money recklessly ever again. You will learn to budget properly. You will learn to save money. You will learn the real value of things beyond their price tags. I will provide everything you and Destiny need: food, clothes, shelter, education, medical care. Everything you need, but not everything you want. Do you understand the crucial difference between those two things?" Clara nodded vigorously, tears streaming down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I understand completely." "You will also see a therapist regularly," Michael continued firmly, "to work on your spending addiction. Yes, Clara, it is an addiction, just like alcohol or drugs or gambling. It's a real psychological problem that needs professional treatment, and you will spend quality time with Destiny teaching her the right values. No more crying for toys and getting them immediately. No more getting everything she wants the second she wants it. We will raise her together the right way, properly. Do you agree to all of this?" Clara nodded again, crying harder now. "Yes, yes to everything. I'll do whatever it takes, whatever you ask, I swear I will." Michael turned to Sarah, and his expression softened with love. "Sarah, I know this is asking an enormous amount from you. More than anyone should ever have to give or sacrifice. You've been with me through all my building years. You helped me create all of this from nothing." He gestured around the room, "And now I'm asking you to share it." He walked over and took Sarah's hands in his. "I love you deeply. You are my partner, my equal, my future. Clara is my past, a past I thought was completely closed. But she's also the mother of my child, and that creates a responsibility I cannot ignore. I cannot abandon them to suffer on the streets, but that doesn't mean I'm choosing her over you. I'm choosing to do what's right. Can you accept that? Can you live with this arrangement?" Sarah was quiet for a very long time. Clara held her breath, waiting. The silence in the room was heavy and thick. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. "When I met you, Michael, you were broken into pieces. You told me everything about Clara, about how she left you so cruelly, saying you couldn't afford her anymore, about how much it hurt you, and I watched how that pain motivated you to become better, how it made you stronger and wiser, how it made you careful with money and resources." She stood up slowly. "I love you too, with all my heart, and because I love you so much, I know something important. If we turned them away now, if we let them suffer on the streets, you would never forgive yourself. Eventually, that guilt would poison our relationship. You would grow to resent me for making you choose. I don't want that future for us." She looked at Clara directly. "This doesn't make us friends. This doesn't make us sisters. We're not going to braid each other's hair and share secrets, but we can be civil to each other. We can coexist in this house peacefully, for Michael's sake, and especially for that little girl upstairs who deserves a real chance at life." Michael pulled Sarah into his arms and held her tight. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for understanding. Thank you for being who you are." Clara stood up shakily. "Sarah," she said, her voice trembling, "I know I have absolutely no right to ask anything from you, but thank you. Thank you for giving my daughter a chance at a better life. Thank you for being the kind of woman I should have been all along, but wasn't." Sarah looked at her steadily. "Don't thank me yet, Clara. Show me instead. Show me that you can actually change. Show me that you can be the mother Destiny desperately needs. Show me that Michael's faith in you isn't misplaced or wasted." "I will," Clara promised solemnly. "I swear on everything I have left that I will." The next few weeks were incredibly hard for Clara. She had to learn everything again from scratch. How to budget money properly, how to distinguish between needs and wants, how to say no to herself. Most importantly, how to say no to Destiny when the child cried for things. Destiny threw massive tantrums at first. She would scream and cry for toys like she always had. But this time, Clara didn't give in. She would hold her daughter close and explain patiently, "We don't need more toys, baby girl. We have enough toys already. Let's play with what we have and be grateful." Destiny would cry even harder, "But I want it. You always buy me things when I cry. Always." "Not anymore, my love," Clara would say gently but very firmly. "Mommy made terrible mistakes before. Big mistakes that hurt us both. But I'm learning to do better now, and you're going to learn with me." It took time, many tears from both of them, many difficult moments, but slowly, gradually, Destiny started to understand and change. She started playing with her existing toys and appreciating them. She started saying thank you for things, and Clara watched her daughter transform, feeling proud and hopeful for the first time in years. Michael helped tremendously with Destiny. He spent hours with his daughter, making up for lost time. He took her to the park and pushed her on swings. He read her bedtime stories every night. He taught her about the value of money using a small piggy bank. Destiny loved this newfound attention from her father and learning to save. Sarah watched from a careful distance. She was always kind to Destiny, but didn't try to replace Clara as the child's mother. She simply continued being herself, working hard, supporting Michael, living her life with Clara and dignity. Sometimes Clara and Sarah would cross paths in the kitchen or living areas. They would exchange polite small talk at first, brief conversations about the weather or food or household matters. Then gradually, over time, their conversations grew deeper and more meaningful. They talked about life, mistakes, lessons, second chances, and redemption. One evening, about 6 months after Clara had moved into the mansion, the three adults sat together in the main living room after Destiny had gone to bed. There was a surprisingly comfortable silence between them. "You know," Sarah said suddenly, breaking the quiet, "I never imagined I'd be living in a house with my partner's former wife. It's definitely not a conventional arrangement, but somehow, against all odds, it's actually working." Clara smiled sadly. "You're a far better woman than I am, Sarah. If I were in your position, I don't think I could have been half as kind or understanding." "Don't compare us like that," Sarah said thoughtfully. "We're completely different people who've had completely different journeys in life. The important thing is that we're all genuinely trying to do what's right here." Michael looked at both women with obvious pride and gratitude. "I'm proud of both of you. Of how you've handled this impossible situation. It's not normal, it's not conventional or traditional. It's definitely not easy. But it's real and honest. And it's working better than I ever hoped it would." "Michael," Clara said quietly, gathering her courage, "can I ask you something personal? Something I need to know?" "Of course. Ask me anything." "Do you still love me?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Even a little bit?" Michael was quiet for a long, heavy moment. "Yes," he finally said honestly, "but not in the same way I used to. I love you because you're Destiny's mother. I love you because we share history and memories. But I'm not in love with you anymore, Clara. That romantic love ended when you walked out and said I couldn't afford you. Those words killed something inside me that can never come back to life." Clara nodded slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I understand. I just needed to hear the truth, needed to know for certain." "But," Michael continued gently, "I do respect you greatly for how hard you're trying to change, for how committed you are to becoming better. That means something important to me. It really does." Time continued passing. 1 year went by, then another. Clara kept changing and growing. She started taking online courses in business management and financial planning. She wanted to truly understand what Michael did and how he thought. She wanted to contribute something meaningful. She started a small home-based business, making and selling handmade jewelry online. The profits weren't huge, but the money was hers, earned honestly through her own work. Money she managed carefully and wisely. She kept detailed records of every kobo spent and saved. It felt good, it felt right. Destiny grew up surrounded by love from everyone in the household. She learned to value things beyond their price tags. She learned the importance of hard work and saving. She learned gratitude and contentment. She became a happy, well-adjusted child who understood that love was more valuable than any material possession. Michael's businesses continued expanding and thriving. He opened offices in 3 new countries and hired hundreds more employees. Sarah remained by his side as his partner in every sense, eventually becoming the CFO of his primary company and proving brilliant at her job. In time, they had a private wedding ceremony in the mansion's garden, small and intimate, with only close friends and family attending. Clara attended with Destiny. Though strange, it also felt right. She had lost Michael as a husband, but gained something more valuable: self-respect, purpose, and a functional family. 5 years after that rainy night when Michael found them on the street, Clara sat quietly in her room. Destiny, now 10, worked diligently on her homework. Clara's phone buzzed with a message from a happy customer about their jewelry order. Smiling with satisfaction, she updated her ledger carefully. "Mommy," Destiny asked, looking up from her math homework, "can I get a new dress for the school party next month?" "Do you need a new dress?" Clara asked gently, echoing Michael's lessons. Destiny thought about it. "I guess I just want one. My other dresses are fine. Then let's save for it together," Clara said warmly. "If you still want it in 2 months and save half the money from your allowance, I'll match it and we'll buy it." "Deal?" "Deal, Mummy." Destiny grinned. Clara's heart swelled with pride. Her daughter was learning values she once lacked. A knock came at the door. Sarah stood there, smiling kindly. "Michael and I are having dinner in the dining room. Would you and Destiny like to join us?" Clara smiled. "We'd love to. Thank you." That night, the 4 of them sat around the long dining table. Michael at the head, Sarah on his right, Clara on his left, and Destiny between them, happy, secure, and loved. They ate, laughed at Destiny's jokes, and made weekend plans. To outsiders, they might have looked like a strange family. To them, it was home. Clara looked around the table, feeling something she hadn't in years. Real peace. Not the fleeting peace of possessions, but the lasting kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you should be. Michael caught her eye and smiled, not with romance, but with respect. His look said, "You did it, Clara. You changed." "I'm proud of you." Sarah gave a small approving nod, saying without words, "This arrangement is working." "You kept your promises," and Destiny gazed at her mother with pure, uncomplicated love. Clara's heart overflowed. She had lost her marriage, her pride, and years of her life. But through struggle, she had gained wisdom, self-control, and the ability to appreciate what she had instead of always wanting more. She had learned the greatest lesson: real wealth is not in possessions, but in relationships, in love, and in who you become through struggle. By that measure, surrounded by her unusual family, Clara was finally truly wealthy. My sweet family, now tell me, what did you learn from Clara's story? Was there a moment that made you cry or made you smile? Let me know in the comment section below. I would genuinely love to read your thoughts and reflections. A brand new story is coming the day after tomorrow. It's deep, emotional, and full of unexpected twists that will keep you thinking. So please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it. If this story touched your heart in any way, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate every single one of you. See you in the next story.